Hi everyone. I'm going to share what I've learned in my research about the megalithic monuments on Ireland that relate to the zodiac animals, or the constellations of the fixed stars that are represented through different archetypal expressions. And on Ireland, there are expressions of these zodiac fixed stars actually carved as standing stones. And you'll see this map on the left-hand side, the geodetic survey of Ireland around 3000 BC by astronomy map of the decipherment of the megaliths of Ireland by Angus Cowlins. So Angus Cowlins, I found his research on megaliths.net/Ireland, and he's got this really great interactive map. So whatever you click on this map, it'll lead you to the more information expanding on the standing stone and why he has related certain constellations or fixed stars to these particular stones in these particular areas. And some of those reasons are due to the shape of the carvings, obviously, because they're carved as the shape of the constellation. And also a lot of it is deciphered through the etymology of the name, the word meanings, the Irish names. And when all of that is deciphered together, you get the reasoning for the positioning of the zodiac stones. So obviously on this map it's quite condensed. There's a lot of writing on there, and you can see in the pink writing is essentially showing the standing stone or the megalithic structure, and then the black writing is the constellation, and then the black writing is also showing us the town lands or counties of Ireland. And so when we inspect the map, looking across to the second zodiac depiction, we've got this zodiac wheel of Eudora Inez Perry, and she was the partner wife of Dr. George Carey, who wrote a book called God, Man, the Word Made Flesh, and that book is talking about from his physician's point of view, the symbology and the poetry, etc., inside the raising of the Christ oil phenomenon that is an anatomical, physiological, metaphysical phenomenon that is all about internal alchemy. And so when we look at that zodiac wheel, we can see that the zodiac animals, character glyphs, they go around in a certain order. And when we then compare those 12 divisions of the 360-degree circuit, and when we overlay that onto the Irish megalithic sites, we can start to see that there's exact correspondences, which is amazing. And yeah, this work of Angus Cowlins is really, really revealing. So he's showing that most of these megalithic monuments are dated around the 3000 BC mark, and so we're in 2023 right now, so that's, approximately 5,000 years ago is when the majority of these stones were sprinkled around, and they're sprinkled around in the exact alignment order of the fixed stars, as above so below. So we can see these 5,000 year ago people knew a whole lot of stuff about the cosmos and where things were, and they literally carved it in stone upon the land. And so inspecting more deeply, if we're going to start somewhere, if we start at Eire, that's just down south of Dublin, on the east coast there. And Eire is essentially in the county of Wicklow. And then as we go up through Dublin, and then we get through to Newgrange, Nouth and Douth at Brunaboyne, as we're looking back across at the Eudora Perry's map, we can see that this is Aries moving upwardly into Pisces. So this is fire moving into water, and that is the standing stones at Wicklow, passing through Dublin, the gate of fire, and then ending up in Pisces, which is these 3 megalithic stones at Brunaboyne, which are all built upon a river, upon the River Boyne. So it is quite a watery complex, because these are tumulus built on the river. And so as we go upwards from Pisces, we get to the region of Aquarius. On Andis Cowland's map, it's not actually singled out, but in the constellation megalithic stone of Capricorn, which we can see just below Belfast, that megalithic stone has Aquarius constellation on it also. So some of these stones, they share constellations. And so then going upwards, we've got Sagittarius at the Crag of Hull stone. And this one's quite interesting because it seems to be maybe aligned with the equinoxes. And there's a stone there, standing stone. And aside from there being Sagittarius constellation markings, there's a hole in it. And that hole is maybe aligned with the equinoxes. And then coming down through Derry and Tyrone, and then off to Donegal, you'll see that's the constellation of Scorpio. And Scorpio is also found in Tyrone, which is another overlap. So coming down from Scorpio, from Donegal, we're going to be moving into the division, the 12 division of Libra. But Libra is not actually on Andis Cowland's map. But in the research I've collated, I am putting Libra essentially as in the position of Loch Earn, which is in County Fermanagh, which you can see on the map as Fermanagh, and then underneath it's got Hercules. And so Libra is kind of around there, and Libra is relating to this 2 lakes, Loch Earn Upper and Loch Earn Lower. The lower one is in the upper and the upper one is in the lower. It's very very interesting. And there's also just above Loch Earn Upper and Lower, there's another little lake, and it's called Loch Derg. And this is basically the whole region of Libra, which I am relating to the character of Moses. And Moses has an archetypal relationship, storyline-wise, with Hercules. And so then coming down to Sligo, County Sligo, we can see Virgo has been put in there by Andis. And in that region, we've got Carrowkeel, Carrowmore, and Creevykeel. These are all very, very big sites, megalithic sites of Ireland. In my research, I've put Virgo to be mostly more associated with Carrowkeel. Other people associate Virgo more with Creevykeel. But, you know, all of these megalithic monuments, they're essentially all tied together as one big system. So everything overlaps onto everything else. But just for simplicity's sake, for the inspection of the way I've presented what I've been researching, I'm relating Virgo to Carrowkeel because Carrowkeel is diagonally opposite Newgrange in the Brunaboyne complex on the east coast there, just north of Dublin. And Carrowkeel it is a site with many, many different structures, but one of them is the only other roof box on Ireland that is still remaining, that has the same design as what we find at Newgrange. So at Newgrange, this is a roof box is essentially a little opening in the above the door frame of the entrance into the tomb, and the Newgrange tomb entrance and passage internally is shaped like a cross. And when the winter solstice sunrise creeps over the red hill on around 18th of December to the 23rd, that sort of whole window of time, it begins to start entering into the chamber through the opening of the roof box. And the roof box has actually been said, I did read one piece of research on this, that the roof box itself actually has been changed. The stones that frame the hole, which would then guide in a certain amount of light at a certain angle, they have actually been changed. So anyway, directly opposite, diagonally on the west coast, we've got Carrowkeel, which is way up on top of a mountain. And this is one of the only other surviving roof box on a structure, megalithic structure. And this roof box is aligned with the summer solstice sunset. So this is pretty much like a yin and a yang pairing relationship. So on the east coast, which is the Do masculine yang meridian, if we're talking acupuncture meridians, we find the winter solstice sunrise on the masculine meridian. And then as we go down through past Libra, which is the Loch Erin and Loch Derg, relating to Moses, which in the anatomy and physiology I'm relating to the mouth, because Moses parts the Red Sea, and the Red Sea is the mouth, and the red dragon is the tongue, and this is the place where the Ren and the Do meridians join together with the tongue. So this is the Mary and the Joseph meeting. And so after that has happened, going down through into Virgo, this is the summer solstice sunset. So this is showing us the descent of the sun, going into the night time, the yin time, the feminine time, the Mary moon, Renmai meridian time. So this one also, Virgo, because she's related to the Virgin. The Virgin is the goddess of the harvest, and as I've just described, this is the beginning of the Ren meridian, which is it begins in the mouth. So this Virgo harvest goddess energy is also to do with the manger at Bethlehem and the Virgin Mary giving birth to Jesus, in Bethlehem, the house of bread and meat, the stomach, because the orifice of the stomach is the mouth, and we use the tongue, the red dragon, not only to speak and communicate our spirit, but to chew food, help us chew food, etc. So when we observe the megaliths, and we can see that, Carrowkeel lets the light in, but also going a bit more internally into the body of Ireland, we come down south of Carrowkeel, and you're going to get into the region of Roscommon, and you can see the Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, which is the constellations that make up the Big Dipper, which is St. Bridget's cross, and the motion of the swastika, because the Ursa Major and Ursa Minor Big Dipper constellation, when it has done one full rotation around the 360-degree circle of the seasons of the agricultural cycle, the position of the constellation changes its direction and its alignment, and it leaves behind an imprint of a swastika. So this is the wheel of time in the sky. So just below or around that area of Roscommon and Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, there is a lake, and it's called Loch Ree, and this lake connects to the River Shannon, and the River Shannon's entry point from the external of Ireland's body. You can see it in Clare and Limerick. There's an inlet there between Clare and Limerick down on the lower part of the west coast, and then following those county borderlines upward, around, when you get up to around Longford, that's where, in Westmeath, that's where Loch Ree is, and this is essentially where we find a town called Bethlehem. So this is part of the nativity scene, you could say, and obviously the constellation of Virgo is helping to rule that archetypal energetic area. So yeah, it's very, very interesting how it all overlaps. And so coming down into Galway, this is a constellation of Leo and also Hydra. And then as we go south of Leo, we come back to County Clare and the constellation megalithic inscription stone that shows us Cancer, the constellation of Cancer. And so this one's quite interesting. I've made some video on the Irish Elixir #3 book show and tell. But Cancer has a maiden at a spinning loom depicted on the megalithic stone. And this is very, very key because, you know, the maiden, obviously she is going to be relating to Mary in the biblical stories. And then because she's found on this Ren meridian, that's relating to the moon meridian, the female meridian. And then when we come to re-inspect the Neijing too, the Daoist artwork, we're going to see that because of the position of Cancer in Clare, where the River Shannon starts flowing into the body at essentially what I'm calling the umbilicus. It's a tokay. and okay. Wow, that was a long one. Thank you, Tokay. Yeah, I live in Bali. There's lots of special little fairies around saying hello. So, yeah, when we inspect the Neijing too, we will see that in the region of the stomach, at the House of Bread and Meat at Bethlehem, which is off the east border of Loch Ree, we will see that the maiden is spinning a loom or a web or a wheel, and she is relating to Cancer. So we've got two zodiac animals or or archetypes joining together as the Virgin Mary through the depiction of the maiden at the loom on the Cancer stone, and also through the you know, the etymology and the goddess relationship of Virgo, and the Virgo symbolizing the harvest, the going down of the sun, and also the Virgin. So the Virgin, the Virgo, the harvest, related to eating, related to the mouth, related to the stomach. and related to the maiden at the wheel, which when we inspect the Chinese medicine anatomy and physiology of what the role of the stomach and spleen is, the role of the stomach and spleen is to produce blood, which then is able to send nutrients around the body through the bloodstream, and that is made from food. So it all kind of ties in from the physical to the metaphysical. And also because the maiden at the wheel is, she's at a red wheel and she's wearing a red dress and she's weaving a red thread or a red ribbon. This can also be related to the umbilicus, and also a river of blood signifying the blood vessels, and that also wraps up around the brain, so that's showing us the highly vascularized pineal gland. And it's also biblically related to the house of Judah and the twin brothers of Judah, and what order they came out of the mother, and getting the scarlet ribbon wrapped around the wrist to show that one came out before the other. One actually put his hand back in, so they swapped roles. Anyway. And then so coming down past Cancer, we're getting, and when we're looking at Ireland as the human body, we can see, Kerry and Cork, they're kind of like the feet and the toes. So we're getting a little bit away from the main torso, right? So if we want to keep in the main torso and add in the next zodiac sign, we want Gemini, and Gemini is actually found quite a lot more inland, between the counties of Offaly and Laos. And interestingly, what I found out in the research of the etymology of these two counties is that one is a king and one is a queen. And what are the Gemini? The Gemini archetype is a set of twins. And in the Anaya Jing too, the Daoist artwork, the Gemini twins are in this region of the reproductive area. And there's a boy and a girl. And so then we have all of the symbology of the Gemini twins, the king and the queen of the Offaly and Laos, and the reproductive organs of the ovaries and the testicles. And so this is actually in the whole zodiac wheel, and also the Neijing 2, which is exactly the same. This is the only paired symbol. This is just like the maiden at the wheel, or the Virgin Mary. She's actually the only sole female. The rest are all males in the Neijing 2, and Gemini is the only paired masculine and feminine. So that's kind of the reproductive area, but a little bit also the I guess you could say the lower intestinal region. And so coming around on Eudora Inez Perry's map, we've got Taurus. And so Taurus, if we look back on Anders Cowland's map, I'm going to find Taurus just next to Wexford in Kilkenny, County Kilkenny. And so then you're going to see that Taurus, the bull, well, it's actually the ox or a bull. Ox means that the animal can be masculine or feminine, and a bull means that it is only male. So in the Neijing 2, in this region, we're going to see a man ploughing a field with an ox. So that is showing us this oxen-horned character as Taurus, that in the Neijing 2 Daoist imagery, it's signifying that it could be a male or a female. So we've got to harking back to the Gemini twins as representations of the yin and the yang aspects of the lower organ function, especially to do with the reproductive organs. As the man ploughing the field, he is ploughing and preparing the land to make it fertile, so he can plant crops. And so then, yeah, we're all the way back around to Aries. These megaliths were were erected or constructed or carved, that is around the 5,000 years ago mark. And so this is kind of interesting because when we see, I don't know, yeah, there must be something significant about 5,000 years ago, because when we compare this Irish map to the Anaya Jing 2, which you can see in the center here, the scroll, we're going to be able to see that the positions are the same, the zodiac positions are the same. So this Daoist map was modeled off Ireland's stones of 5,000 years ago. So that's very interesting. And what is also interesting, I do wonder about this, because I visited the Bosnian pyramids to attend a conference in 2018. So we went around and learned about what they have discovered. And the caves, the Ravne tunnels that have been shown to connect to the pyramids, or to the as a big underground kind of 7 layers of tunnel network, 350 meters deep. And when they first started excavations, all of the tunnels, the very external part of the tunnels, was blocked with little pebbles and stones. And so as they unblocked it all, they started doing carbon dating on some of the organic matter that was found within the rubble, which had been used to block up the entrance of these caves. And that carbon dated organic matter was shown to be about 5,000 years old. So 5,000 years ago, the people of that time blocked up the tunnels from the inside, leading to the biggest pyramids in the world. So I find this, yeah, in terms of like the whole, lost knowledge, lost technology, lost ancient knowledge, it seems like something happened 5,000 years ago. Anyway, that's my tangent on that. Getting back to the task at hand, if we now, since we've already inspected, the land of Ireland, going around, seeing that the Eudora Anais Perry's map of the zodiac wheel is perfect. These stars, they're called fixed stars, they're never going to change positions in comparison with each other proportionally, but they do go around and around like a disc, moving around. So when we have a look at the Anaya Jing 2, if we start again at the same starting point of Aries and Wicklow, we're going to notice in the same region of the Anaya Jing 2, there is a symbol, and it looks like 4 little circles with a red half and a black half, and it's around this white circle which has blue light inside it, and then it has rays of yellow light coming out of it, and it has 2 little fires underneath it. So this is technically the Wexford area, which in the human body, this would be the sacral bone, which is the big triangular shaped bone at the very end of the lumbar portion of the spine, which your hip bones plug into. And so this area, it has a lot of nerves flowing through it, and those nerves feed into the lower legs, and they also feed obviously into the lower organs, and that is a lot to do with the reproductive organs. And so then we come back to what is also in that region on the other side. We've got Taurus, or the man with the ox ploughing the land to make it fertile, and then below that we've got the Gemini twins, moving these what they call in the artwork these water wheels, and they're moving this water wheels so that the water goes upstream, so it goes eastwardly and northwardly. And when we realize that that is what has been written in the poetry of the Anaya Jing 2, and their job, these 2 twins' reproductive organs, boy and girl, yin and yang function, is to push the reproductive energy, the sexual, psychic, orgone energy, up the spine and save the seed. Don't waste the seed by letting the waters flow out of the body. This is actually starting to incorporate us back into the practice of the microcosmic orbit for raising the Christ oil within. Because the oil is the cerebral spinal fluid, and as you can see, there's a long, 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 long river. It's going all the way up the spine and into the brain. So that is the oil, that is the cerebral spinal fluid, and this is shown to us on the Anaya Jing 2 as the Zodiac animals. So we started at, this sacral region with these 4 circles. So each one of those circles is actually a taiji, or a yin-yang, a circle representing the duality of yin and yang in relationship and in transformation. And it also can be seen cosmologically to represent the 4 directions, the 4 seasons, and also the cycles of the sun and the moon, because it's yin and yang together in a lunisolar relationship. And as that as the moon and the sun go through their cycles, the moon goes around the earth, takes 28.5 days. The sun goes around the moon and the earth, and to complete one orbit it takes 360 days. And so they both have slightly different patterns which can be photographed in the sky. They just take a longer amount of time, but they're similar patterns, and they look like a figure 8, an uneven figure 8, and it's called the analemma. And so we can see that in this this sacral hip region, we have the suggestion of a figure 8 movement, and this is what we practice in Qigong to unlock the hips and therefore unlock the sacral cranial pump in the body, to enable us to flow energy more easily without obstruction through the body. So that is really, how you can start to layer up information from all resources and put it together as a functional manual, blueprint to follow. And so then rising up from Wexford and then towards Wicklow and Eire, we've got this big giant fire, and that is representing the gate of life, or the gate of destiny, called Ming Men, the acupuncture point on the spine that is level with the kidneys. And then opposite the kidneys, who have we got here? This maiden with the red spinning loom. As we've already discussed, she is representing the stomach, the digestive organs of the stomach and spleen, to make blood, to weave the river of blood. She's also the mother, so it relates to the umbilicus. And she's also in Ireland, she's at Bethlehem, the house of bread and meat, which is the stomach. So the kidneys and the stomach and the anatomy of the human, they actually share the same nerve plexus. So it's the solar plexus. So interestingly, also in Dublin, if we're relating Dublin to the gate of fire, the gate of life, the gate of destiny, Dublin is famous in medieval times for having a whole bunch of gates. They had big wall around to protect the city, and they have lots and lots of gates. So it is essentially a port town that was a big gate. So that's quite an interesting one. And also in the inner alchemical practices, they teach us that we have to move our energy through these 3 main gates on the spine. And one is the tailbone, the next one is Ming Men in the lumbar, and then the last one is up in the occiput, and back of the neck. And so then moving northwards up the river Chariot, the river Jordan, what is an Irish? Ardbanas? I can't pronounce it. Help me, someone Irish. And so we're moving up there. There is a little gate there, and that is near the acupuncture point on the Du Meridian called Shen Dao, which means spirit pathway. There's also another acupuncture point there called Spirit Tower. So this is showing us the rising of the sun and moving towards the heaven, the head, the spiritual realm, getting more and more spiritual, less dense, less physical. The reproductive physical organs are now being transformed and distilled through the movement of the zodiac elements up the spine to be refined. And so opposite this gate, this is actually the region of the heart and the lungs. And so this is also the region of Pisces, and therefore the region of Newgrange and Nowthendalth at Baruna, which is the Valley of the White Cow, which is very interesting because if you look just over to the west coast, you'll see this golden spiral disc with this little boy standing on it, and he's holding a sticky looking thing, and it's actually Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. And what have we just seen over on the Anders Cowland's map? Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, Big Dipper, is exactly in the same position. Ooh. So this boy, he's called the cow herder boy, and he's representing the heart, and he's standing on the Milky Way galaxy, and he's holding out the Big Dipper. And the Big Dipper constellation of the combination of Ursa Major and Minor, when they're read together, they will always point towards the North Star, which is like the North Pole, the heart, the inner heart, the middle province. And so he's representing the heart there, and he is the constellation of Leo, because the Leo is the lion heart. And all of that relates also to Tara, the Hill of Tara, and the Brunner complex is kind of all relating to the North Pole star. And so celestially, you know, the Milky Way galaxy, which the cow herder boy is standing upon, this is this, you know, spiral galaxy, as within, so without, contraction and expansion, design of our realm. So this is a point where you scratch that. And so knowing that this boy standing on the Milky Way galaxy holding this constellation is called the cowherd boy, and he represents the heart. And then in terms of the anatomy and physiology of Ireland and the Brunner complex, we have Newgrange, Nowthendalth, which are representing the heart and the lungs, and also the heart and the lungs in communication with the kidneys, which is Dublin, the gate of fire, and the Valley of the White Cow. And here we have the cow herd. So there's a lot of cow symbology going on here through both Irish terms and the Daoist. So which came first? Well, obviously the land came first. So also you find at Tara, there's quite a lot of more referencing to cows. There's a well of the cow, there's a mound of the cow, there's a few other cow things going on, and there's also a reference to mead or honey. So this, then we can inspect Tara as the land of milk and honey, which is the heart. The land of milk and honey is the heart. So then coming up through Pisces, through Brunner, through the Shen Dao Spirit Gate, Spirit Tower, we get to the occiput, the back of the head, where the spine plugs into the brainstem, which is encased within the cerebral cortex of the brain matter, grey matter of the brain, to protect the inner workshop, the Santa's workshop, protect the ventricles, protect the brainstem, protect the diencephalon, the limbic system, the basal ganglia, all of these internal structures which are the control room of the brain, control room of the body. And so this region, as we pass through from Pisces to Aquarius, we're passing through the crucifixion at the medulla oblongata, which is the Garden of Gethsemane, the oil press, where the fourth ventricle aqueduct of Sylvius runs through. So we're squeezing water of Pisces into Aquarius air. So we're elementally phase changing and distilling our Christ seed oil spirit in the cerebral spinal fluid, and we're vaporizing it through the Aquarius fourth ventricle gap. It's baptism. Aquarius, the water bearer. So then coming up to Capricorn. Capricorn is the goat fish, and this is the region where we have Loch Ness, which means, it actually means horsemen, the lake of the horsemen. So then this is starting to incorporate Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is a horseman. So we have a fish man, a goat fish, and a horseman. And so all of the tales, the Irish tales in this region, involving the megaliths around this region, involving Finn McCool. And Finn is the king, the apprentice to the magician that accidentally licked his fingers after touching the salmon of knowledge. And then he was imbued with all the powers of knowledge of the salmon. And the symbology of a salmon is that the salmon is the only type of fish to swim upstream. And what is Finn's first name? Finn. What does a fin use to swim? A fish used to swim? Fins. So it's all fish symbology, and fish is Pisces, and then fish is Jesus. So we go into all of that, and we've already had a look at the megaliths and their placement on Ireland. So this is really starting to incorporate that actual landscape, with the biggest lake in Ireland is Loch Ness, Lake of the Horsemen, and then you'll see in the Jing too, this is the big lake as well. And then what's underneath the lake? Caves. And so in this region in Ireland is very, very famous for caves, reaching all the way over to Cash, and then all the way through the coast of the north and the east and the west. There's all these beautiful caves, underground caves, which are connecting through and to the Giant's Causeway, which we can see then as the opposite side of the caves is these big tall peaks. And the Giant's Causeway on the north of Ireland is also related back to the land of the giants, and relating back to the mythology of Finn McCool and him facing a challenge from a Scottish giant, and they decided that they would meet in battle by making a bridge between the two lands. And this is what is known as the Giant's Causeway. So it seems to be said to be formed from a big volcanic explosion, but what is very interesting about this area is that it's all tessellated tiles that fit together so perfectly, and they're all at different heights, and they're all in the shape of these hexagon pillars. So it gives the impression that this whole coastline looks like a giant pipe organ or some kind of very interesting earth musical instrument, is how I sort of felt when I was on there. So yeah, this is basically the caves and the structures that to the Giant's Causeway, and the heaven, the head, the land of the gods, the land of the immortals, the land of the giants. And so also, this is very interesting too, you won't be able to see it very easily in this artwork because it's a bit pale, but just to the west side of the tallest peak, there's a little white yellow looking temple in there. It's a four-sided pyramid without a capstone, and that is essentially talking about Niwan Palace, which means nirvana. It's the same kind of thing. And in Ireland, in the same region, just above where it says Sagittarius, just sort of northeast of the last S of the Sagittarius, there's a little island there called Rathlin Island. And if you draw a line straight up through Rathlin Island, and you go through the islands off the coast of Scotland, you'll pass directly through an island called Faroe Island, and then you'll get up into the region of the Mercator map location of Mount Mero, which is beyond Iceland and beside Greenland. So this is possibly because in the body, as we're moving energy around, this Niwan Palace, this is also near by the acupuncture point called Baihui, which means 100 meetings, and this is the crown chakra, and this is where we can pull in and send out communications to the cosmos and connect with psychic informations and all of that kind of thing. So moving along, so Scorpio represents the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. So this is actually showing us a trinity. And so if we look back to the Neijing too, you can see the trinity represented as a sun and a moon and a heavenly orb. So on the back of the neck, the occiput, you've got a red dot next to that occiput gate, the brain door gate. And then as we go up, the second tallest peak of the Giant's Causeway, you've got a little yellow orb. So in this region where this little yellow orb is, there's an acupuncture point there called Upper Star. And then there's also Courtyard of the Spirit is around that area too. So the names of the acupuncture points are sort of revealing the functional aspect, the energetic aspect of moving energy through these points. And so you'll notice there is a little Buddha sitting cross-legged next to a yellow orb just below his right knee. So that orb there represents the moon. So then we've got the moon, the sun, and the heavenly orb, or the upper star. And this is the trinity of Scorpio, of the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. Phoenix is actually the double-headed eagle, which is associated with Freemasonry. And so this Buddha, he is the representation of what you could call the third eye. And so then that's obviously going to relate into the optical eyes and the pineal gland, because they're all working together as a system that is reliant on light. And as the light goes down, the pineal gland produces melatonin to get us prepared for sleeping, and that all flows through the cerebral spinal fluid to deliver the signals to the body as hormones. And then the pineal gland is obviously when it does contain calcite crystals, and when calcite crystals are put under pressure or squeezed or compressed, they emit piezoelectricity. So depending on the water flow and the water pressure in the brain, the pineal gland is going to become sort of activated when there's more water pressure, kind of working like how the underground tunnels of the pyramids work. And so then this is where it gets really fascinating. Buddha's sitting up there on the top lip, and then you can see that there's the mouth of Ireland, the mouth of the Neijing too, and it's open. And on the bottom lip, there's this monk, and he's holding his hands up towards the heavens. He's called the blue-eyed foreign monk. So he's Chinese. He's in a Chinese painting, but he's called blue-eyed, and he's foreign. So he's not Chinese, and he's got blue eyes, which is not a common feature for that race, right? So next to the blue-eyed foreign monk, there's this square-looking thing, and it has a division down the middle, and it looks like a board game or something, right? It's actually representing a pool of water, and it's hard to see in this rendition of this artwork on this scroll. It's a bit faded, but in the upper or more westerly located pool, from the caves, from the rocks of the caves, there's actually a spring of water flowing out, and it's filling up the pool. And then obviously there's the pool on the other side, and there's a division between them, and the division between them you can see is this kind of arc. And if the artwork was not so faded, you would see this as a rainbow. So this is the rainbow bridge of Bifrost, connecting the lower world to the heavenly world, and the Nordic tree of life, Asgard, Midgard, Asgard. So this is the rainbow bridge connecting the the heavenly energies. And so this pool of water is very interesting. Remember how I said before that in that region of Femang, we've got Loch Erin upper and lower, and we've got Loch Derg. And so Femang, we find the megalith of Hercules, and I'm attributing Libra to this region also, because of the archetype of Moses. So this pool of water represents the mouth. It's in the mouth. And the mouth is wet. It's a wet place in the body. And when you open and close your mouth, it can dry out. And and this is essentially the Red Sea. So when you open up your mouth and you inspect the colour, you'll see it's red, and it has a red tongue, which is the red dragon. So this is actually the region where Moses, the blue-eyed foreign monk, lets the Israelites out of Egypt as he parts the Red Sea. And also another Moses reference we have in there comes back to the spring coming forth from the rock, because when Moses's people were thirsty after wandering the wilderness, he asked God what he should do, and God said, take your staff and tap this rock, and spring water springs out, and that is what we're seeing flowing into this pool of water, which is the mouth. So this holds very big significance for us in terms of raising the Christ oil, merging that practice with the microcosmic orbit, which is all about the swallowing of saliva and the rejuvenating our body through the circulations, the cyclings of the golden elixir. So that's really, the region of Moses. And Moses, in the position of Libra, what is Libra? It's the scales of justice, or the scales of balance. And so we have the upper palette and the lower palette, and we have the Ren and we have the Do, we have the masculine and we have the feminine. This is the balance of the two. And also in Moses' personal story, he was always, fighting for justice. He saw his people, when he was a young man, being treated as slaves, and he wanted to free the slaves, and he wanted to fight for justice. So we have another archetypal reflection happening there. And so then finally, to finish off this journey, this microcosmic orbit inner alchemical journey of the Irish megalithic structures of the Zodiac, of the Daoist Inner artwork, Loch Erin, upper and lower. So in Ireland, you'll find it in the county of Femang, and Loch Erin upper is in the lower, and Loch Erin lower is in the upper. So this is really weird, but it makes sense. It's that by switching the polarity of the north and the south, the above and the below waters, it's symbolically showing us that the mouth closes and opens. So the up and the as above, so below transforms into each other through the opening and closing of the mouth. At least that's how my brain works and understands it. Because I always like to be able to understand there must be a reason for something. There's always a reason. And so then Loch Derg is super interesting. It is basically the parotid gland where most of the saliva gets produced, and that is represented in the Daoist artwork as that cave with the springing out and filling up the mouth. So that's what the parotid gland does. It's actually got a little tube, comes out of the gland, and it squirts saliva into the mouth from the gland, which is just behind the cheek and between the spine and the brainstem. Between the brainstem and the cavities of the face. So these caves can actually also represent cavities of the face and the skull. And so in Loch Derg, there's a little island, and it's called Station Island, and on that island there's a sanctuary called St. Patrick's Sanctuary, and it has a basilica, which relates to snakes, and also it has I think a chapel for the Mother Mary, and then there's a most famous place, and it's called St. Patrick's Purgatory, and this is the place where you can go into an underground cave, and technically you're meant to be contained inside for a certain period of time so you can experience what it is like to experience hell, as they say. But when we look into the etymology of the word purgatory, it actually means cleansing. So it is a place of spiritual cleansing, and this is found as an island in the middle of Loftberg on Ireland, which is an island, and that is a place of cleansing, and that is in the anatomical location of the parotid gland, which squirts the liver, the golden jade heavenly mana elixir out of the mouth that we do swallow then to perform the cycles of the Ren and Du river chariot river journey. So then lastly, if we more clearly differentiate the 12 divisions of the zodiac wheel with this spider web looking wheel over the top, we can see how it can be divided into 3 cauldrons, which are the 3 dantian, or the 3 energy centers of the body, which contain, you know, the anatomy and the physiology, but they also represent the metaphysical, alchemical, elemental interactions that are happening. And so that's going to be even more obvious as we look into the zodiac and what they represent elementally. So if we start at the top, you'll see it's clear as you know, Capricorn, Sagittarius, Scorpio, and Libra. And then the middle is actually red on the left side and the right side as Pisces, Aquarius, Virgo, and Leo. And then in the lower, we've got Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, and Aries. And so what we're going to get out of this is actually each of the 3 dantian, or 3 cauldron, has a representative of each element: earth, air, fire, and water, earth, air, fire, and water, earth, air, fire, and water. So we can see, as the example, if we use New Grange, the winter solstice sunrise at New Grange in Brunaboyne, this is a happening. So as the Aries fire, the Mingmen gate of life, gate of destiny fire, rises up into Pisces through the motion of the microcosmic orbit, if we're talking microcosmically as the human body, this is fire entering water, because Pisces is water and Aries is fire. So this is the fire entering the water and warming the water, and then as it moves up into Aquarius, into that element of air, it's evaporating into steam and being distilled and moving through the aqueduct of Sylvius in the 4th ventricle. So we have this kind of interplay that we can start reading into it, which is so cool because it's just keeping on building all these layers. And if we just keep on layering it up, it makes more and more sense every time. And then across the way from Pisces, as we've discussed at Caro Kiel, the only other light roof box that lets the light in, is the constellation of Virgo. And so this is the Mother Mary and the baby Jesus, because Jesus is the fish. And then also connecting into that middle cauldron is Leo the Lionheart, the cow herd boy, which is connecting the cow symbology to the Brunaboyne Valley, which is the valley of the white cow. And so this is Pisces is water, Aquarius is air, Virgo is earth, and Leo is fire. So this is the 4 elements. And so we can apply that obviously to the upper cauldron and the lower cauldron. And yeah, when it's all put together with all of these layers, you get to see that it is a perfect blueprint. And the blueprint has been recorded, etched in stone on Ireland, not only as megaliths, but also in her very landscape herself. There are rivers, there are mountains, there are streams, there are lakes, and a lot of them have, you know, mythological stories associated with them, which give us more clues as to the archetypal patterns that they're referencing. And then also, yeah, just by way of their actual geography and geology, it gives us a lot of clues that link us back into the Daoist artwork as well, in terms of olivine basalt rock. You know, olivine is a green stone, so there's a lot of green stone, there's a green golden elixir. It just sort of goes on and on like that. So anyway, I'm going to finish it off for there. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's the yeah, the Irish Zodiac, you could say, with very much thanks to Anders Cowlands and his work that I have referenced a lot in my research. So yeah,